As you can see, there's only 3 Splatoon games. Is 1 week really going to be a challenge to 100% them all? Simply beating the single-player campaigns isn't a problem, but going for 100% is an entirely different story. So let's just jump into it, starting with Splatoon 1. To 100% this, I need to beat the main campaign, beat all 60 amiibo levels, collect all 27 sunken scrolls, and fully upgrade the hero shot and sub-weapons. Say what you will about the Wii U, but I still love this gamepad. It's stupid and clunky and dumb after what the Switch has given us, but I still think it has its charm. At least it doesn't have Joy-Con drift, and a D-pad that doesn't completely suck. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Pro Controller. What do you have to say for yourself? Guilty! The buttons still feel crisp to press, and I was honestly having a good time at the beginning. Going back to Splatoon 1 was surprisingly jarring. I played so much of this game when I was in college. I can't tell you how many late nights I had playing with friends when I should have been studying or sleeping. Whenever I hopped into a multiplayer level, I was blasted with nostalgia, which is terrifying because this is not that old of a game. It's only 9 years old. I've got a lot of fun memories with Splatoon 1, but it's definitely got its quirks. First off, you jump with X for some reason. I completely forgot they changed the jump button, and of course there's no way to change it to be like every other video game where you can jump. There's also a lot of missing moves, like squid jumping from Splatoon 3. I've become so accustomed to squid jumping through the ink in Splatoon 3, so not being able to do it made the gameplay feel slightly more sluggish. There's also no way to control the speed of your camera. And then we've got the graphics. I mean, they aren't bad, but they're definitely worse. There's a lot less detail in the environments and models. Now, obviously, this is older hardware, so that makes sense, but I really didn't notice a difference until actually going back to this game again. So what exactly is our goal here? We're not going to unlock everything in multiplayer because 1, that's designed to take years to do, and 2, the Wii U doesn't have internet anymore. Unless I got Pretendo working, but that's besides the point. I just need to fully complete the single-player levels, which, as you can tell, is pretty straightforward. I just gotta get to the end of each level, and also find the hidden sunken scrolls, which, for whatever reason, a lot of them were hidden underneath ramps. It was a weird trend I noticed. Most of these scrolls are pretty easy to spot, which is nice, and I like how they add to the lore of the Splatoon franchise. The levels themselves are just fine. They're not bad to play, but they aren't memorable. There's some clever platforming here with things like shooting a sponge with ink to inflate its size, or this little Roomba guy that eats your ink on the walls while you have to try to make a path to climb the wall. It's not a bad campaign by any means. It's just one of those one and done deals where you play the levels and have a good time and forget what you played when it's over. And guess what? Half of the campaign doesn't have unique levels. No, they pulled a bunch of multiplayer stages on top of that. It's kind of cool to play the multiplayer levels while taking out a bunch of octolings that are all pitted against you, but this is a huge chunk of the single player. It made me realize that the budget for the first Splatoon must have not been that big, because single player nowadays would never do something like this. Maybe I'm the first to say this, but the hub worlds are really underappreciated. They're kind of like mini levels within themselves. You really have to go out of your way to find the entrances to each level. And after you find said level, you can just warp there whenever you want, meaning it won't be a headache to revisit. But the highlight of the campaign is by far the bosses. They're incredibly easy, but really creative and fun at the same time. The Octostop is iconic. It's a big old stamp that tries to smush you down. But I've always liked Octomaw. You gotta shoot this guy's teeth to not only survive, but also make an opening to throw a bomb into his mouth. And then of course, DJ Octavio has the sickest beats out there. I used to consider him to be the best Nintendo boss of all time. That is until the Switch came out, and things have gotten more ridiculous. After defeating the Octobot King, I wasn't quite done yet. As I've been going through these levels, I've also been collecting these orange orb eggs. These eggs are used to upgrade my hero shot and sub-weapons. However, I wasn't even close to fully upgrading everything yet. So you know what that means? It's time to farm some eggs! I basically just replayed the very last level a ton of times. This is a multiplayer stage that doesn't have octolings, but instead an Octostriker will try to nuke me with ink every 6 seconds or so. So I played the level a few times and started to figure out a solid route. I was using bombs to break open things before I got there, and position myself in a way that I could predict where the ink strike was going to show up. I could also get bonus orbs by holding onto my armor and holding onto a special, so I made sure to collect those as well. On average, I was getting around 120 eggs per run, and the level only took a couple minutes to complete. However, I needed a total of 8,100 eggs. I've already upgraded my hero shot and bought a few sub-weapons, but I still had to get 3,956 eggs. So I was quite a ways off, but that's okay. Splatoon is such a fun game to play, so I didn't really mind grinding the eggs out. The only issue at this point was that my hands were starting to cramp. This is honestly pretty concerning. I play with the motion controls, so I'm constantly twisting my wrist around, and it's probably not good for them after such long stretches of time. Here I was praising the Wii U gamepad 5 minutes ago. Now it's causing me physical pain, so good job on that one. To prevent destroying my hands completely, I would let go of the controller whenever the game was loading, and eventually I managed to get all the eggs I needed. But we weren't done yet. Next was the amiibo. I still remember how controversial these amiibo were at the time. What's the reason? Well, they each contain exclusive levels that you can't play normally. Yeah, no, that's not true. These are literally the same goddamn levels. The only difference is you either use a different weapon, or the level is tied to some sort of challenge. The Squid amiibo, as an example, has levels where you have to clear it without refilling ink, or before the time runs out. Hell, you play as the Squid special for most of the levels and just completely annihilate everything in your path. This was the dim light of what Splatoon single-player stages would eventually become. So even though I had to play 60 levels, I didn't have to worry about orbs or scrolls, and at least there was some weapon variety. But once I finished that, I was completely done with Splatoon 1. It took a total of 7 hours on the dot to complete, which was a lot longer than I anticipated. I didn't realize how long it was going to take to grind out the orbs, but that's okay. This was pretty simple to get through. Next up, we have Splatoon 2. Oh no. To 100% this, I need to beat the main campaign with all weapons, collect all 32 Sunken Scrolls, 37 Sardinium, and fully upgrade all weapons and sub-weapons. I'll be doing the Octo expansion as well, but more on that later. Now, I don't know how many of you caught what I just said, but I have to play the main levels with every weapon. There's 9 freaking weapons, which means I'm basically playing the base single player 9 times in a row. This equates to playing a grand total of 288 levels. And this is just the base game. The DLC is also a behemoth. I think you can see why this is a 1-week challenge and not like 3 days. It's gonna take a damn long time to 100% everything. This is where the real struggle begins. But hey, it's nice to be playing Splatoon 2. I've literally sunk like 900 hours into this. It was my comfort game between 2018 to 2020. I played it just about every night for an hour or two. I mean, look, I freaking prestiged on my save file. If you're a hardcore Splatoon fan, you already know how long it takes to reach this. Although, honestly, I was mostly playing Salmon Run. But anyway, moving on, the Pro Controller is a lot more comfortable to hold, and the overall movement feels a bit smoother. You can also control the speed of the motion and camera, which is a freaking godsend. I feel like I can actually move at the speed that I want to. The game also looks so much better, and clearly a bit more budget was poured into this. Everything looks more detailed and refined, and the texture quality is much cleaner. And look at that! They made the roller good! You can do vertical tosses when jumping in the air. Like, I can't begin to explain how nice this is. Climbing up walls no longer sucks. But as for the actual levels, well, they're kinda similar to Splatoon 1. You once again go from point A to B, but there's a lot of new elements in the stages themselves. One of the highlights by far is the ink rails. You basically grind on some ink like we're in Sonic Adventure 2, and you can also shoot at the same time. This leads to a bunch of levels where you can shoot balloons and jump in the air to go through onion rings for eggs. Oh, and I guess the onion rings are new too? Very funny, Nintendo, haha, I get it, onion rings, squid, funny. You've also got these glowing light hook things that you shoot and you get launched to that spot when you hit it. It's very satisfying. It feels like each stage is more interesting overall, but still isn't all that exciting. Although I do have to say that the bosses are a big improvement. They're still innovative and fun to fight, but the difficulty has been upped a little bit. Now, they aren't crazy hard or anything, that was saved for the DLC, but at least I have to put in a bit more effort to clear them. I also just love the toaster oven. Like, it's such a silly concept, yet its mechanics work perfectly for Splatoon. And hey, the scrolls in Sardinium are better hidden as well. Some of these really stumped me. Like, there's this one that's perched on top of a wall that you can't ink to climb up, so you have to very specifically break this one box to climb up and get it. I really like that they're harder to get this time around. Now, I hate to say this, but it's a bit disappointing that there's still multiplayer stages. But I guess I get it. This game did come out very shortly after Splatoon 1. Nintendo wanted to get this out within the launch year of the Switch. And at least we got Moray Towers in here, the nuke town of Splatoon. The hub worlds also take the same idea as Splatoon 1, where they're a bit of a puzzle, which is nice and all, but World 5 went way too far. Dude, look at how freaking big this level is. It's not fun to traverse in the slightest. You spend 80% of the time waiting around on these saucers, and you got this entire invisible section, and it's just the worst. But at this point, I've gotten all the collectibles and finished the final boss, which, man, talk about underwhelming. You just shoot the fists again, and after that, you're in this grind rail circle firing Rainmaker shots. It's definitely one of the final bosses of all time, that's for sure. But there we go, I finished the main game. Only 8 more playthroughs to go! Woo! Me. As boring as it's gonna be, at least all these are easy. The challenge comes down to time itself. It has nothing to do with actual difficulty. So what I figured would make this go by the fastest is to just replay one level at a time and get all the weapons at once. The idea is that I would learn the level and then be really proficient in the last few runs. I did this for the first stage and then went to bed. Look, I recorded for over 15 hours today, so it was a long one. But I'm feeling ready for tomorrow. The grind is about to begin. Guys, my day's gonna go crazy today. I'm gonna sit in one spot, play Splatoon 2 levels several times over. Wow! Yeah, these marathons are no stranger to Grindfest. Mario Kart 7 had me farming coins for 2 days straight. But compared to that, at least this is a lot more engaging. I put my plan into play and started going through one level at a time. As I was playing, I'd periodically go back and upgrade my stuff too. Now, as you'd expect, you can still upgrade your weapons and sub-weapons, but this time you can upgrade all the weapons, which means I need a total of 17,800 power eggs to fully upgrade everything. That might sound daunting, but let's not forget that I will have to play the levels a billion times over, so I'm not gonna need to worry about egg farming at all. I will definitely get enough eggs by just playing. Last night, I did some quick math and figured that each level would take about 30 minutes to beat, which means I might only spend 13 hours doing this. However, I didn't take into account that a lot of these levels are lengthy. In fact, just the second level took me 45 minutes to finish with every weapon. It is insane that this is even a requirement. In fact, the game rewards me for doing this later on. But for now, it was all about the playing, the gaming, the sweating, the inking. The only other thing I could really strategize at this point was the weapon upgrades themselves. There's some weapons like the Charger and Blaster that I'm super bad with, so I upgraded those first so they'd be a bit more useful. I'm also glad that I could get through the multiplayer and boss levels quickly. It made the drone of the day go by a bit faster. But man, today got so mind-numbingly boring that I was forgetting what level I was even playing half the time. My brain was set to limbo mode, which led me to having some thoughts. And some of these thoughts got a little deep. See, this has been a weird year so far because I really felt like I lost a sense of purpose. And I didn't know why for the longest time, but I think I finally figured it out. I'm constantly being told to take breaks and relax more often. While that's not really how I roll, I really took that to heart this year. I've been uploading a lot less and working less hours and spending more time with hobbies, which are things I haven't really done in several years. And once I started to take more time off work and just relax, that's when I started to feel off and lost. But you want to know when I feel like myself and like I'm on top of everything? When I'm recording these marathons. Yes, they're tiring. Yes, they're exhausting. Yes, they're a bit painful sometimes. But I have a set schedule, and I have so much to do. Now, obviously, playing a game all day isn't that hard, but trying to get through massive amounts of content on a time limit is challenging. In order to feel fulfilled, I have to set goals and put in the hours to reach those goals. Living mindlessly is something I believe a lot of people struggle with, and that can often lead to depression and anxiety. So I guess the point in saying all of this is that fulfillment, for me at least, is achieved by setting goals and setting yourself up to make progress. Now, what does that have to do with Splatoon 2? Absolutely nothing, but this was what was running through my head today. You want to know how far I got, by the way? I cleared worlds 1 through 4. Yes, I didn't even get through all the levels. That is how long this takes. But honestly, that's alright. I've been feeling more at peace recently, and I'm ready to keep this train rolling. But also, level 19. I had to stand on these Roomba things and watch them clean up messes and go the wrong way 8 times in a row. This level was super annoying, just gotta say that. Want to guess how long it took to finish up the base levels? Oh, only a measly 5 hours. Yeah, 5 hours. By the time I was done, I wasn't even that excited. It was just such brain rot to play every level so many times over, but it's finally done. We can move on to the best part of the game, the Octo expansion. To 100% this, I just need to beat the main campaign with all weapons. This equates to beating 226 levels. So while that's a ton of levels to do, I was stoked. This DLC just might be the best DLC Nintendo has ever put out for any of their games. The vast amount of quality that's been added is just crazy. First off, we're playing as Octolinks now, which is pretty cool. The music is all completely brand new, and it absolutely slaps. And then the best part is that all the levels are fantastic. The word of the day here is variety. Every single level has a unique gimmick in its own range of difficulty. There's no hard mode or anything like that. No, it all comes down to the weapons. Most levels require us to beat them with 2 or 3 weapons. These weapons are methodically picked to make a level pretty easy to insanely difficult. We've got these 8-ball missions where we have to knock 8 balls around and try to prevent them from falling. There's quite a few grind rail missions where you have to hit every target as you fly by them. These in particular are super satisfying. The boss fights have been remade to be much more difficult than the base game versions. Then you've got missions where you fly around in a jetpack the whole time. And then you're in a hamster ball where you can charge up walls and explode on command. Then you've got other missions where the stage rotates and you have to find glowing rods and it feels like you're inside a little puzzle box. Oh, and did I mention that the CPUs aren't stupid anymore? Funny, the Octolings in Splatoon 1 was a complete joke. In this game, they were actually kicking my ass a bit. Like, oh my god, the Splatoon devs were not playing around. They truly put their all into this. The sheer amount of variety is staggering, which was really nice because I was on the verge of falling asleep before. Now I'm wide awake and sprawling into action. There are still some multiplayer stages reused, which is a little unfortunate, but at least they're more exciting this time. We've got a Rainmaker version where you gotta get the Rainmaker to the end all by yourself, and the same goes for tower control. I should also note that just in general, I don't think it's a bad thing to reuse assets for different parts of a game. In fact, it's a really efficient use of time. The only reason I don't mind this for the Octo expansion is because all the other levels are so much more enjoyable, and there's significantly more unique stages. It was honestly really nice to get stumped. Right Round Station in particular was giving me trouble. I had to take out a bunch of snipers and stuff, and the challenge came from the super strict time limit. The first 2 weapons weren't a problem, but the Rapid Blaster Pro sure was. The enemies take extra hits since the weapon's not that strong, and I had to keep hitting this target to rotate everything, but then the rotation was really fast and I would get sniped and I would die, and holy crap, it felt amazing to finally clear. This one was really giving me the struggles. Oh my god! Oh my god, how close was that? I was 0.03 seconds away from losing. I'm not kidding. This game offers some heat, and I'm all about getting toasted up in this battle. As we're going along, I also need to collect parts for a blender, which of course we're taking selfies with because blenders are badass, but that's about as far as I got today. It takes quite a while to play all these levels, so I was gonna have to wrap up tomorrow. Breaking news! Furukawa announced that the successor for the Switch is real! Congratulations to all the channels that have been spamming Switch 2 rumor videos for the past 5 years! Wow, you were finally correct! Anyway, today is going to be a much harder day. While I've mostly breezed through Octo Expansion, I haven't really touched any hard levels yet. This was the first time I was going to have to deal with some actual difficulty. And if you've played the game before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But before that, I still have some great things to say about it. Remember those annoying Roomba levels where the robots didn't cooperate? Well, they're back in Octo Expansion, but this time they're stuck on set paths, meaning they'll actually work as intended. Like I said, the devs really went out of their way to make these levels as enjoyable as possible. We also finished getting all the blender pieces, which led to us almost getting blended to death. Oh, Jesus! Oh, but hey, look at that. Ex Machina Agent came in to save the day, so it's all good. And just like that, it was finally time to take on the final boss. All the sections leading up to it are so damn great. It does such a great job leading up to the finale. You start off with no weapons, so you have to play stealthy and get around without getting spotted. Eventually, you do find your weapons again, but then you jump around these floating cubes that are right above deadly water, and you have to avoid all these lasers and go all James Bond and shit. Then you've got this huge level with a bunch of data posts that have to be destroyed, and you navigate that using the inkjet. And oh my god, the final boss is fucking amazing. The music is just infectiously catchy and hypes you up, and you gotta blow up these huge bombs before the time limit runs out. This entire segment just makes you feel all giddy and excited. I don't know how else to describe it. So after a couple of deaths, I cleared that, Pearl did the big booyah to finish things off, and the final boss was done. But I still had some levels to play, and I've saved the hardest for last. To start, I ran into this really funny glitch where this boss pounced for like 5 seconds, but then Matchmaster Station. Oh yeah, you all knew this was coming. We gotta match the shape again, but this time we're given a bit of a clue. Just break the orange boxes. I mean, how hard can that be, right? With the squeezer and splat charger, it's not too bad. You just have to be careful with your shots. But the Rapid Blaster Pro is an entirely different beast. This weapon has, let's just say, a bit of a blast radius. So that means we need to somehow break the orange boxes without accidentally breaking the brown ones. Just looking at this footage, you can already see why this is the scariest thing ever. It's literally impossible to avoid inking the wrong boxes, so you have to very meticulously plan out which boxes to break and at what angles. A lot of boxes have to be broken in the corners to prevent splash damage, and you just have to hope that you don't miss a shot. This stage is known as one of the hardest in the game, and for good reason, but I somehow beat this on the second try. Yeah, I don't know how, but that's just what happened. Which is crazy because this was the only stage and weapon combo that I've never cleared in my life, and I thought I was gonna get stuck here for a while. But okay, second try was the reality, I guess, so I'm not gonna complain. But that wasn't the problem. Oh no, there's another mission that's even harder. Once you've cleared every level, a secret final boss is unlocked. This is a boss fight against Inner Agent 3. And oh boy, this one kicked my ass to the curb, stomped it to the ground, and threw it over a cliff with an inferno underneath it. There's 5 different phases, all of them with different patterns to learn. The first phase, you'll have to avoid a bunch of inkjet attacks. The second phase involves heavy use of the bubble blower. The third has tons of auto bombs, the fourth is tenta missiles, and the fifth and final one is lots of splashdowns. Let's also keep in mind that Agent 3 is always throwing auto bombs in all the phases, and moves extremely erratically. This leads to one of the most intense battles out of all the Splatoon games. In the past, I've cleared this before, but it always took like 30 to 45 minutes. Unfortunately, I'm a bit drained after playing Splatoon for 14 hours a day, and now I'm on day 4, so my motor skills were not up to snuff. So that means that I lost again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and also again. And it got to the point that I was getting extremely frustrated. I had to keep getting up and taking breaks to calm my temper, because whatever I did, I just could not beat this. The main issue was the stupid auto bombs, because their blast radius is massive and they always manage to be out of my eyesight and I don't see them coming half the time. And if you lose your armor, you move twice as slow, which means that in some phases, you will die and there's nothing you can do about it. But the reason I was getting so frustrated was because I'd beaten this before and I've sunk an ungodly amount of time into this game. Like, why can't I just beat it and move on? But I did eventually figure some things out. I was building some muscle memory with how Agent 3 moves. The roll dodges can kind of be manipulated in your favor depending on what side you shoot him at. And the final phase had a pretty cool strategy that I never considered until looking it up. By standing near this rectangle, I could completely avoid the splashdown by just switching from side to side. This made such a huge difference in defending myself. So after 2.5 hours, I finally took him out and was completely done with Splatoon 2. It took me a total of 35 hours and 41 minutes to beat everything. Damn, I felt so defeated in the moment, but also glad that it was over. So now I can move on to Splatoon 3. In order to 100% this, I need to beat the main campaign with all weapons, collect all 29 capsules, 18 Sardinium, 24 Sunken Scrolls, 18 gold records, 7 tickets, and 6 card packs. I also need to fully survey all the site maps, fully upgrade the hero gear, and destroy all the fuzzy ooze. So yeah, Splatoon 3 is packed with content, and this is just the base game. We still have to do side order, but we'll get to that later on. I just gotta say, starting off, it feels amazing to be past the Octo expansion. There's a part of me that is completely down to play the DLC again because I'm obsessed with this game, but I also loathe the idea of redoing the Inner Agent 3 fight. But we've moved on to the third game, we've got some cool new hairstyles, and we got this little guy as well, Small Fry. The level design has a bizarre take this time around. They kind of mesh together what worked with Splatoon 2's base game as well as the Octo expansion. There's quite a few levels that have really creative mission objectives, while others are just about going from point A to B. There's also no multiplayer levels, which is fantastic, and the collectibles aren't in levels anymore. They've all been delegated to the hub worlds, which are somehow even more expansive than the second game. I honestly think this is a way smarter way of going about this. The hub worlds have always been little puzzles, so having a nice balance of speeding through the levels and then exploring the hub worlds a bit deeper is perfect. And new to this game is the fuzzy ooze. We basically need a bunch of eggs so Small Fry will eat the fuzzy ooze for us. This is a really fun concept that allows you to literally expand the hub's horizons. So I decided to just plow through the levels to build up a good egg supply and find collectibles that are out in the open and easy to spot. And also, I can squid jump again! Oh, thank God. I can't believe how much I missed that. Oh, it feels so nice. And I love the music in these levels too. Splatoon always manages to nail the music to match with its atmosphere impeccably. Upgrading the hero gear is very different this time too. It's now laid out as a skill tree. The main difference is you have to unlock access to certain perks with Sardinium and then use your upgrade points to actually get them. These upgrade points are easy to get. You basically just need to play all the levels and you'll get them as you go. I really like this system more than just spending eggs, because it adds a perceived value to the Sardinium. So now I'm incentivized to get eggs and find Sardinium. Well, I guess I'm technically incentivized to do everything, but you get my point. Something I completely forgot about with this campaign is that there isn't a boss at the end of every world. They only have bosses every 2 worlds, which, what game does that remind me of? Well, at least the boss fights are really fun. The best by far is Big Man's, as it's a recreation of Mana Storm from Mario Sunshine. I mean, come on, that's just so freaking awesome to see a callback that fits so perfectly with Splatoon. But in all honesty, I didn't get that far today. I was exhausted after finishing Octo expansion, so I ended the day and rested up. I feel kind of dumb at how mad I was getting at the secret boss, but it's all good. All I can really do is move forward and not give up. The goal today was to get through the rest of Splatoon 3's base game and get some sort of start on the side order DLC. I made it through the first 2 worlds last night, so I just needed to get through the rest. The main focus was really on surveying everything, which at first was a bit confusing. You see all these gray slashes on the map? I have to physically walk over this for it to count as surveyed. And I mean, I quite literally have to ink or walk in all of these areas, which is why I'm constantly inking the ground to ensure that I don't miss any spots. You have to be extremely intricate. You can't just walk roughly near the unknown parts, no, you literally have to walk over every inch. I only emphasize this because I feel it's a little too strict, personally, but at least it helps a lot with finding all the collectibles. I was getting all the scrolls, Sardinium, gold records, and everything else as I was going along. Constantly inking the ground kind of felt like mowing the lawn, and I know that's a weird comparison, but it really is the same idea. Mowing requires you to cut every piece of grass in the vicinity, and this is the exact same concept. As for the gameplay, well, I was starting to get a little tired of it. While there are a good amount of banger levels, a lot of them feel the same as Splatoon 2's base game, which pretty much means that the levels don't do anything unique. But it wasn't a complete snooze fest. At least the final world site wasn't as obnoxious as Splatoon 2's. You gotta take these grind rails around a bunch of buildings, which I honestly found to be pretty fun despite the large scope. It felt a bit more freeing than waiting on the flying saucers for 3 weeks at a time, that's for sure. I eventually finished all the stages, and I just wanted to grab the collectibles that I was missing. I wasn't really sure how to do this quickly, until I realized that I can't read. On the map screen in the top left, there's a key that says Area of Interest and shows which collectibles have been fully found. So all I had to do was go back to the sites that still had green and shoot the ground to find the hidden goodies. How on earth did I never notice this until now? So once I realized that, I spent the next 30 or so minutes throwing small fry everywhere and revisiting each site to collect everything I missed. The only wonky thing I had to do was at Site 2. There was this one tiny sliver that I was not able to reach for whatever reason, so I had to throw a burst bomb in this particular spot, and boom, the sliver was gone. Once that was taken care of, it was time to finish up. The captain goes all Dragon Ball Z mode, and it's almost time to fight Mr. Grizz, the big-ass teddy bear. This portion of the game is very similar to the end of Octo Expansion. You go through a few different sections that'll take away your gear, you have to play stealthy, yada yada yada. It's really damn fun, just like last time. And now we're fighting the bear himself. This final boss is so freaking crazy. You're on this rocket ship that rotates on its sides, and you have to collect the golden eggs from Salmon Run to tear through the fuzzy ooze, and these are also used to hit Mr. Grizz after shooting at his weak spots. Meanwhile, there's tons of enemies, and ink is constantly being splattered towards you. The whole thing is just mayhem. I wouldn't say it's as hype as the Octo Expansion final boss, but it's up there for being really creative and memorable. After hitting the bear a bunch, the rocket explodes and you're sent to space. But then, DJ Octavio comes into the rescue, and Small Fry transforms into a massive fish, and now you're using an ink-powered vacuum hose to suck up more ooze while Huge Fry is tussling with Mr. Grizz. This is the most Japanese anime I've ever seen, and I am so here for it. The premise is so goofy, but it works so well, and the music once again sets the tone perfectly. After beating him, I was completely done with Splatoon 3's base game. Well, almost. Yes, after Alterna, the final level that unlocks after beating the game. Think Champions Road from Mario 3D World, but a Splatoon version of that. After Alterna is an extremely long, challenging, and intense level. But I've played this in the past, so I already had a good idea of what to expect. The only part I was getting stuck on was this final section. I had to fight several Octolings at once, and the final part kept destroying me. They all spam specials at the same time, so I basically had to learn exactly where and when each Octoling spawns so I could take them out before they could attack. After about an hour or so, I cleared the last level and was finally at the last part of this marathon. To 100% Splatoon 3's side order, I need to beat Overloader with all 12 pallets, collect every colored chip, fill out the gelatin field guide, play all 113 floor variants, unlock all of Marina's hacks, and buy everything from Cypher's siftings. This is quite a different beast compared to everything I've played so far, because this is not your average Splatoon campaign. Oh no, this is a roguelike version of Splatoon. If you've played any roguelike games before, you know the entire point is to never actually finish them. The goal is to slowly get incrementally better with the more you play, and the same concept applies to side order. However, there is an actual end goal, but it's gonna take a long time to reach. So long, in fact, that I'm not actually sure if I'll 100% this before the week is up. I played for a couple hours today, and it was getting late, so I didn't go for that long. Before going to bed, though, my chair decided to pull a fast one on me. Look at this, it decided to break. I have no idea why that happened, but the screw holding it together was completely bent, so the chair was ruined. Thankfully, I have a backup chair so I can still sit and do some gaming. The goal today was to complete a lot of the side stuff, which mostly includes filling out this chip collection. Now, if you've never played Side Order, I'm gonna have to explain how it works because it can be a little confusing. The goal is to clear 30 floors, and at the end of that, your score is tallied up and you get some pearls. The pearls you get are based on your score, so let's say you get 1,000 points, that equals 1 pearl. These pearls are required to unlock all of Marina's hacks and also buy everything from Cypher. but I wasn't all that worried about optimizing the pearl amount. I wanted to focus on the colored chips. These chips all do very small things to improve your weapons, speed, defense, specials, and so on. But these chips have to be collected randomly, and you can only get them by actually playing the level assigned to it. However, there's a small handful of chips that only show up with specific weapons. So say you want to improve the roller or splatling, well, you can only find chips to do that when using these specific weapons. All 12 pallets are just different weapons, so the goal was to collect the weapon-specific chips as soon as I saw them. As for the drone chips, well, most of them don't show up until you unlock them through Marines hacks, so I had to do that too before I could get them. And on top of all that, there's the Gelatin Field Guide, and this is very different from everything else in the game. This guide has an archive of every enemy and boss in this mode, and we're required to destroy each of these enemies a specific amount of times. Doing so unlocks more information about each enemy, which is kind of cool, but it also means that I had to keep checking the field guide to see which enemies I needed to focus on. And I haven't really talked about Marines hacks yet. These are incredibly important. This mode is really tough without the hacks. The chips power you up, but are only temporary for each run. Marines hacks, on the other hand, power you up permanently. So if you want to get stronger, have more lives, have higher defense, you need to spend pearls on Marines hacks. And this, my friends, is the beauty of roguelike games. Everything that you do while playing has an impactful role on getting better and better. Even though I look dead inside from being really exhausted, this is right up there with Octo Expansion on the fun factor. It was a lot of fun watching my chip collection grow and making myself stronger and stronger from all of Marines hacks. Although I do have to say, once you have enough hacks turned on, this game becomes super easy. I wish it was a little bit harder still, but I'm still having a good time. So the goal at this point was to optimize what hacks I unlocked, make sure I play a new level when I see it, and try to get as big a variety of chips as possible. This strategy was not netting me a lot of pearls, but I was still making a lot of progress on everything else I needed to do. And something else that was really helpful about all this was that I actually already knew a few different speedrun tactics. A couple months ago, I participated in a charity event run by ProChara, who's a Splatoon creator, and I was lucky enough to work hand in hand with an actual speedrunner of this mode, Wahoo. While I didn't have a lot of time to learn speedrun stuff necessarily, I did learn a few things, like pushing the 8-ball when it's at the goal sucks it in faster, and I can also drone hop through enemy ink to increase my chances of escaping. So I was making small adjustments to my gameplay to get through runs as fast as I could. I was hoping to reach 7,000 pearls today, because I need a grand total of 14,042 pearls to unlock everything. Considering I'm getting 200 to 300 pearls a run, that's a bit of a dilemma, but I figured that if I just kept at it, I would get to that 7,000 mark in no time. After the entire day passed, I managed to acquire every single color chip. I also finished all 12 pallets, so now it was all about pearls. Well, it's the final day. I officially have less than 24 hours to get enough pearls to unlock everything. But how many pearls are left? Ugh. I added up how many pearls I had left to go, and it was a lot more than I expected. I still needed to get 8,297 pearls. With my current strategy, this would be almost impossible. Until I started looking into other methods. What I was gonna need was floor reset, color chip bias, and vending machine reset maxed out. But more importantly, I'll need to get a lot of orange colored chips. The way the chips work was that if you get the same colors multiple times in a row, you get a multiplier for your score. So let's just say I max out my palette with all the same color. The chain bonus that comes with that will give me 62,900 points on its own, or an incredible 629 pearls. That is way better than my strategy from before. I actually stand a chance to finish side order on time. I can also turn on risky rewards with all my hacks on. I get a 1.1 multiplier, which increases the pearls slightly more. So here's the game plan. I need to select Agent 4's palette because I'm best with splatter shots, but also because the most common tone is orange. I need to select the orange color every single time, no matter what. If there's no orange colors available, then I need to use a floor reset. It's also best to avoid the vending machine unless I have 3,000 or more membucks, because I want to get orange chips from there as well, and purchase bonus pearls. That's why we need the vending machine reset maxed out too. Resets are expensive if they aren't maxed out. So with this newfound strategy, I actually stood a chance to beat this entire challenge. But the time was ticking, and it was still gonna be a close call. I also haven't finished the gelatin field guide yet. There were a few enemies that I had to focus on taking out, but could it be done? Could we get enough pearls and finish this marathon? Yes, it is over! Despite the odds, we somehow managed to complete all 3 of these games before the week was up. It took a total of 33 hours and 30 minutes to fully beat Splatoon 3. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit surprised it was possible. And that wraps up the next marathon. It feels weird to say this, but I'm actually kind of ready to play Splatoon again. I'll probably never touch the single player again, but the multiplayer is still really relaxing and fun to play, so despite how long I just played this, I'm feeling eager to play it still. With 3 Splatoon games out, we've got a bunch of different bosses now, so I'll be ranking them from least favorite to favorite. This list is based on how much fun and / or creative the fights are. So with that said, let's get her ranked. 22, the Rampaging Octowhirl. With as much Splatoon 1 as I played back in the day, I completely forgot this boss exists. That's kind of a theme with most Splatoon 1 bosses actually. You fight an oversized clam that builds up speed and rolls his ink across the ground. All you have to do is make a puddle of your ink to slow him down, and you win. He gives you so much time to do this too, even when the stage is spinning around. While Octowhirl is really creative, he's also super easy. In fact, most of these bosses have unique ways of going about them, but there's not much to write home about with this creepy looking clam. 21, the dreaded Octonozzle. I swear, this guy was featured in some modern Disney movie. He fits the part perfectly. This machine covered in seaweed has suction cups that you have to shoot to reach his weak spot. He fires little pellets at you, but they're so zombifyingly slow that you would have to purposefully run into it yourself. The only change for each phase is you have to hit more suction cups, and that's about it. The main danger is missing the jump since the bottom is covered in his ink, but the odds of that happening are minimal to none. 20, the Mighty Octostomp. He ain't that mighty. While this boss is one of the most iconic in the franchise, you'll have next to no trouble taking him out. He rushes forward and smacks the ground with his ink, which gives you tons of time to climb up his walls and hit the weak point. It does get slightly harder since later phases introduce parts of the wall you can't ink, but even then, there's barely a struggle at all. I just like how goofy his face looks. He looks terrified the whole time. And can we talk about those legs? I mean, those are some smooth-ass legs. Are they naturally like that, or does someone else shave the hair off? I don't actually want to know the answer to that, so please don't tell me. Don't even try to, just don't think about that, okay? 19, Octo Samurai. By far, one of the coolest names any of these bosses have. You face a big ol' chonker riding a unicycle wielding a humongous roller. If anything, he should be an Octo sumo wrestler, but hey, I'll let him be who he wants to be. His attacks are a little more deadly. You'll need to keep a good eye on his roller as he'll swing it down and smack you silly if you're in the wrong spot. He does a lot of hopping around avoiding your shots, so this is a game of patience and weaving around his roller. But this is not the best version of this boss. In fact, a lot of these bosses have multiple variants. 18, Revenge of the Octo Samurai. If you weren't being patient before, you're gonna be forced to this time as you're stuck using a baller special. Normally it's super useful, however, the roller has a habit of knocking you off the stage in one hit. So to avoid that, you need to attack when he's vulnerable or you're in front of a gate. And even then, they don't guarantee your safety. As long as you keep your distance, you'll probably be set, especially since the baller's splash damage is big enough to hit from fairly far away. 17, the Ravenous Octoma. I love how this thing is literally just Poochie from the Yoshi games, but also has a tail and is turned into a robot. So basically, Octoma is gonna swim in the ground and his ink will pop up. You need to escape by shooting his teeth before he gulps you down. Then, you'll need to shoot more teeth and throw a splat bomb in his gullet. While again, it's not the most challenging boss, there's something really fun about knocking out the teeth and chucking a bomb inside him. I guess it's because you have such a direct target, and the payoff is your bomb dealing massive amounts of damage. 16, Octo Oven. If you like puns, then you'll get a treat with this boss. The text is loaded to the brim with bread-related puns, and you basically fight a bunch of ovens stacked on top of each other. The bread do be looking pretty tasty, but after he lunges at you a bunch of times is when you'll climb up with your ink and attack the weak spot. The other phases introduce trickier patterns, and even entire walls of ink that you have to swim with or you'll get burned to a crisp. Some of the bread will also add metal walls that you can't ink on, but it's not really a hindrance at all. Most Splatoon bosses are fish related, while this one is literally just a group of ovens. And boy is it an awesome touch how the bread is completely overcooked when you beat this boss. I just noticed that while writing this, and that is such a Nintendo charm. 15. Octo Oven XXL. No, the oven isn't taller like you might expect, but instead there's a crap ton of enemies in your way this time. The oven stab attacks are a bit faster, and there's ink sprinklers and a variety of enemies that perch up on top. You would be surprised how tricky it is to get up there without taking out the enemies first. It's basically a requirement to do this or you'll get splatted. You're pretty much always sitting in enemy ink no matter what you do. It can be really hard to escape, but that's what makes this one better. The added challenge adds more exhilaration to what was originally a simple boss. 14. DJ Octavio Splatoon 3. Man, does it feel weird to have a DJ Octavio fight this low on the list, but here we are. He's a fun surprise as the tutorial boss in Splatoon 3's campaign, but because of who he is, I had high expectations to be challenged to some extent, and I wasn't at all. Now, yes, I am aware he's the first boss of the game, but this is DJ Octavio we're talking about here. He's let himself go. You still shoot the fist with your ink so they fire back at his face, and that's really about it. Sometimes he'll shoot faster, spinning corkscrewy fists and shockwaves, but don't expect any other attacks. It just feels very strange considering how ambitious and incredible the Splatoon 1 fight is, but with the context of the story, it makes sense because he doesn't have the great Zapfish. DJ is the least of their problems, which just drives home how much more epic the final boss is. 13. Octo Shower. One of the craziest shower heads you can imagine. It sprays ink down and kind of just flies around. He's also able to use certain specials like the Splatling and Stingray, which could be a pain to avoid at times. Since Octo Shower is so high up, you'll need to use boost and ink rails to get an attempt at hitting the octocopters, as they're the only thing keeping him afloat. Once you shoot them all down, you just hit the tentacle and repeat. It's the first Splatoon boss that starts to feel a little challenging, but it's more or less about staying on top of him and keeping close. I always feel like I'm doing something wrong since my shots only barely hit, but I think that's just how it's supposed to be. 12. Octo Shower Supreme. Did anybody order an Octo Shower Supreme? This battle is almost exactly the same, except this time you're forced to use an inkjet, and the shower attacks are much faster too. You get time to see them coming, but holy crap, he just kinda zooms across the stage without any hesitation. In a lot of ways though, the inkjet is easier to use simply because there's more opportunities to hit the octocopters. 11. Octo Stomp. The Splatoon 1 version was kinda lame looking back, but they definitely beef him up a lot in Splatoon 2 and beyond. Besides DJ, he's the only other boss to be featured in every Splatoon game. The big difference is after the first phase, he covers himself in armor, and you can only attack his buckle. And this buckle happens to be right where his nose is. So immediately, this boss goes from being a sleeper to, oh shit, I gotta pay attention, since getting squished by him is much more likely, seeing as that's the only spot you can hit. And for the third phase, his face multiplies into 3, making it even more difficult to avoid his attack. If I could give a boss a glow up, I'd have to give it to Octo Stomp. He really upped his game quite a bit. 10. Fry. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of annoyed to see Octo Stomp yet again in Splatoon 3 as Fry's boss battle, but at the very least, the fight itself is very different with these brand new eel attacks. There's a bunch of different attack patterns. You need to hit the eels with red icons so they'll launch back and hit Octo Stomp. The yellow ones are decoys, and by the second and third phase, they serve to be quite a nuisance. The Octo Whirlpool in particular is tricky if you aren't paying attention to the eels slowly spacing themselves out. But alas, it's still a lot of fun. I just don't get why these eels come from the same old boss yet again. You still climb up the wall and have to hit a stun Fry. Like, why not just make some new enemy instead? 9. Octo Stomp Redux. This is basically the exact same boss from Splatoon 2's OG story, but he has the armor on for all 3 phases. He's also a bit more aggressive. In fact, you've got safety edges for when you'll inevitably get hit and need somewhere to go. When he's knocked down, bubbles fly out, and if any of them hit you, say goodbye to your current attempt. The second phase has even more bubbles and buckles on the sides, so not only do you need to shoot some of them to survive, but you still have to maintain ink for the buckle while avoiding Octo Stomp's attacks. It starts to pick up, but the third phase makes you hit 3 buckles, and there's even more bubbles in your path. I cannot believe the stark difference from Splatoon 1 to this game. It just blows my mind. 8. DJ Octavio, Octobot King 2. I'm in agreement with everyone else that the ending to Splatoon 2's vanilla story is underwhelming, but that's because we're comparing it to Splatoon 1. Even if this isn't much for a final boss, it's still pretty solid. As usual, you'll need to shoot his fist to launch them back for some hits. He also uses massive sub-weapons and unleashes the wall of ink that covers a good chunk of the stage. While all this is happening at the same time, it gets to be a little overwhelming just like with the first game, but definitely not as intense. Once you move past the first phase, the second phase is entirely held on ink rails. You'll use the Rainmaker to hit the fist and have to jump over the fast spinning ones. It's not all that difficult, but it looks and feels pretty badass. And then you finish him off by stabbing his brain with the Rainmaker. That one's gonna leave a mark. 7. Agent 3. People say that CPUs don't exist for the Inklings/Octolings, but they must not realize that Agent 3 is a thing. You fight either male or female Agent 3, depending on which character you're playing as, and my goodness are they aggressive. They swarm around your ass, and if you're not on top of it, you'll get splatted quickly. Agent 3 has phases like everyone else, but they're a lot more subtle. You can tell by the amount of times you knock him down. He may spam curling bombs, the baller, splashdowns. It can be a lot to handle. But with some practice and learning what all the phases are, you'll get the hang of it and be able to take him down. He's not the agent to be worried about, however. 6. Inner Agent 3. Sweet merciful Christ, it's just a friendly, bro. I mean, seriously, Inner Agent 3 does not f around. They've got more health, much more aggression, and all the dodging they do it's just the worst. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but it feels like our splatter shot has a shorter range than Inner Agent 3's, because I always seem to hit later no matter what I do. Throughout all 5 phases, you'll need to avoid tons of auto bombs, which normally isn't that hard to do, but because of how aggressive the Inner Agent is, you'll constantly get stuck in their ink, which means auto bombs are deadly. And if you get hit and have the red sparkles around you, you're very likely gonna die since you slow down to a crawl and almost all attacks are fast and hard to avoid. This boss can get really irritating for me, but even still, it feels so good to slowly get better and learn strategies for getting around and surviving. That last phase with all the splashdowns is just, whew, don't die here or you're gonna turn into a little rage baby. Guaranteed. 5. Shiver. How is it that we've never had a shark boss until the 3rd game? With Shiver, she drives one around, and it'll attack with waves of ink from the bottom and create these whirlpools on the sides while blasting a laser. This is some Sharknado nonsense, and I'm all here for it. I recently had to beat this guy with only bombs, and it was honestly even more fun since I had to be more strategic with my throws and ink consumption. You can even throw a splat bomb in the shark's mouth for extra damage. This is just a super enjoyable boss to take down. It's nothing too crazy, but it doesn't need to be. You fight the greatest fish known to squid kind. 4. Big Man. At this point, everyone has made the comparison of how Big Man is basically the Mario Sunshine Manta Storm, but I don't know if I'll ever get over the fact that this is a real thing that's happened. And the boss itself translates perfectly into Splatoon, despite functioning almost exactly the same, which is just remarkable. You'll need to hit Big Man with your ink and he'll split into pieces. The decoys will attack you with missiles and jets of ink, which can make it tricky to hit the real one. If you're not paying attention, it's really easy to get stuck in ink and get destroyed by a couple missiles, so you'll need to be hopping around the best you can. 3. Commander Tartar. After disappointing fans with DJ's lackluster fight in Splatoon 2, Commander Tartar brings the music down. And I mean that in the most literal sense. My god, the music is so tasty and addicting. The goal is to hit a bunch of hyper bombs around the statue's head and body, and as long as you know where the bombs are, it's not too terribly hard. But I don't even care if the fight is on the easier side. The music really sells the entire experience. I love Calamari Ink Nation as much as the next guy, but Off the Hook is one of those songs that will literally be stuck in your head for several days. Even if you aren't a Splatoon fan, this would fit perfectly at a casual rave party or something. It's very energetic and has this intensity to it because we're on a time limit to hit all the hyper bombs in less than 3 minutes. It's honestly worth getting the DLC just for this final fight. It's really that incredible. Haha, there we go, got my pun in. Heh. 2. DJ Octavio, Splatoon 1. Like Commander Tartar, the music is what really makes this fight so good. But beyond that, the actual boss is a tough cookie. There are so many goddamn phases that I can't remember them all, and that is awesome considering the rest of Splatoon 1's bosses were just alright. The main idea is to keep hitting his fist just like the other 2 times we've mentioned, but the huge difference is the large amount of enemies you have to avoid, and the stage layout constantly changes. This keeps keeps things fresh, as the game loves to say. In fact, over 5 years ago, I made a video about why this was the best Nintendo boss of all time. And honestly, it still might be one of the best bosses ever. The jump in difficulty and fun is beyond invigorating. Play ping pong with a bomb, avoid shockwaves on this narrow path, destroy missiles before they become a problem, and I haven't even listed half the things you'll have to do. It's kind of shocking that this can even be topped. 1. Mr. Grizz. I've thought about it for a while, but I really do think Mr. Grizz takes a slight edge as the best boss in Splatoon so far. The music may not be quite as catchy as the other games, but the fight itself is so ridiculous and zany that it has to be number 1. First off, Mr. Grizz is a big talking teddy bear in a game that's mostly about squids. That alone is hysterical, and we fight him in space by collecting the eggs from Salmon Run and throw Small Fry at Fuzz to get closer to his weak spots. Just saying all that is absolutely absurd, and why I love Nintendo games so much. You never know what you're getting yourself into, and it's almost always memorable. After the first phase and weakening the spot on his stomach so Small Fry can eat it, the damn ship starts spinning around, and you have to survive while avoiding enemies and Grizz's attacks. This gets seriously intense, almost more so than DJ Octavio ever does. Once you get all 3 fuzzballs, the ship explodes, and as you're flying to your death, DJ Octavio swoops in on a UFO with a massive vacuum cleaner, and you basically have to, I guess, clean up his act. While this is happening, there's fuzz boulders to avoid and more enemies that distract you on top of the ship. Not only is this the most Japanese thing I've ever seen in my life, but it's difficult too. It took me quite a few tries to get the hang of this fight. But once you do, and you finish him with a massive laser attack, all ends and you're left feeling very satisfied. Man, I can't believe what just happened. Like, seriously, this fight is so over the top. I imagine this video might get outdated in a couple years because of Splatoon 3 DLC, but I wanted a chance to rank all the bosses since I'm such a huge fan of this series and am so glad to see how far it's come. But with that, thanks for watching and I'll speak with you all soon. I'm a huge fan of Splatoon, and I've always wanted to make a challenge video for the franchise. Now that Splatoon 3 is out, I finally have my chance, and that is to beat the single player without the hero weapons. Subs and specials are fair game, but that's about it. So let's get started and squid jump into this. So this game has some new mechanics not seen in Splatoon 1 or 2, the main one being Small Fry. He can be used like a burst bomb that clings onto enemies and objects, but he's also used in the hub world. The fuzz kills Inkling right away, but with enough power eggs, Small Fry will actually eat entire chunks of this fuzz. To get power eggs, we need to play through levels in the crater, or they're basically the tutorial levels. Small Fry isn't able to open the kettles, so I'm gonna allow myself to open them with the hero shot just because I'm not actually in the level yet. Once we get in, I start hitting some boxes and balloons just so you can see how long it takes Small Fry to attack. This is gonna be one hell of an endurance. While it's amazing he can cling on to certain objects, you gotta wait like 3 seconds to destroy one balloon. Our first real obstacle though is splat switches. Since Small Fry can't produce ink of his own, we can't hit this switch. At least we can't with him. But first, we're skipping the switch because it's not necessary to clear the level, and I'm instead moving to the dead end. By using our special splashdown, we can easily hit the switch and keep going. There's one more switch we need to hit, but our special is no longer charged up. Thankfully, we can easily fill it up again by blowing up these ink balloons, and the damage on all the boxes causes it to fill up once again, which lets us finish this level. We collected 500 power eggs, which is plenty to get to the second level. And it starts off well, only to hit a wall. And I mean literally hit a wall. Since Small Fry can't produce any ink and my jump doesn't reach this puddle, there's no way to get up here. At least that's what I thought at first. If you're on the ground swimming, you can actually make ink trails if you move slow enough. And by doing that, you can actually fill your special meter. So what that means is I spent 30 minutes slowly inking on the ground to fill my special, get a splashdown, and complete level 2. So I moved on to level 3, and I immediately had a problem. There's a key at the bottom of this platform to open up a vault, but I have no way of getting back up top. I tried jumping off this fence and squidding through the gate, but I could not get myself up there. It was very close too, which was aggravating, but at least I can skip this level, right? So I moved on to the 4th level, which was honestly pretty simple. It was mostly just waiting for the enemies to explode from Small Fry's itty-bitty hits, and after clearing the stage, a huge problem came up. The fuzzball that appears at the end to get to the boss wasn't there. It turns out I'm supposed to beat all 4 levels because some cutscenes have to play out to move the game forward. So that means I had to figure out some other strategies, and frankly, there weren't many options. I tried the gate jump some more to no avail, so my only idea was to save up a special and see if that would carry over to another level. And man, was that more obnoxious than I anticipated. After using my 2 specials on the switches, I had to go back and get one more. However, due to the boxes all being gone, it took way longer to fill up the special. Like, it was still working, but I had to shoot these balloon things hundreds of times. And when I finally did this and went back to level 3, the special didn't carry over. And yeah, you know, I kind of expected that, but I figured I might as well test it anyway. So since I couldn't find a workaround, I ended up taking one shot to get back up and continue forward. My luck was not about to get much better though, considering there was another splat switch I had to open up. Without a way to fill the special meter, I got the keys and used one more shot to finish the level. But whatever, I got to the boss, all was good. I just needed to use Small Fry on DJ Octavio's hands, but little buddy can't handle it. Small Fry does cling on to the hands, but it wasn't doing nearly enough damage output to reflect back at the DJ. You know, I don't know what I was expecting anyway. This tiny little dude couldn't have possibly been helpful against these massive hands. So what this entails is quite possibly the most time-consuming, obnoxious, and awful strats I've ever done for a challenge. So you can actually beat DJ Octavio with only 2 hero shots. Here's how. To start, there's no way to get your ink on the field without using your weapon, so by shooting once, I'm able to get a little dabble. This is enough to slowly swim and spread my ink around. You thought this took a long time in level 2? Now I gotta worry about DJ's fist coming in trying to squish me, meaning I have to stop doing what I'm doing and run away to ensure he doesn't destroy my puddle. Charging up just one special takes hours. This was pure, unadulterated masochism. After getting one splashdown, I was able to hit the fist one time, so only 3 more to go and then the first phase will be over. But thankfully, it's a little bit easier because the splashdown creates a lot more of my ink. When I eventually got to the end of the first phase, I'm able to use Small Fry against the DJ. However, I need to make another splashdown. Once I've done that, I let Small Fry do his thing, and when the second phase starts, all the ink is gone. This is why we made another splashdown. It allows me to put ink on the ground and also save some time since I'll have to swim for 3 hits instead of 4. However, since Small Fry is stuck on the ink vac, I have to use a splashdown on DJ on the second phase, meaning that for the final phase, I need to use one more shot since I wasn't able to use Small Fry on DJ. So you do this entire cycle one more time, and that is how you beat DJ with 2 hero shots. But let's move on to Site 1 and see what we can knock out. The first level was pretty straightforward because I had access to all 4 subs. It's not going to always be like this. In fact, there's levels where you can only pick one or have none at all. But here, I grabbed the keys and reached the goal. For the second level, I picked the Heavy Splatling because it comes with burst bombs. And man, what a great choice this was. It took roughly 2 hits per enemy, but it was so much faster than using our little buddy, plus I could swim through ink again. Oh, thank God. The third level was more of the same thing, and so was the fourth, but it's more of a puzzle level. The fifth level, Relic Restoration, was really interesting because I found it to be way easier to ink the Eastern Island head with only burst bombs. It just gets better coverage than a normal weapon, and I didn't even need to use the walkway that sits on the outside. Following that is level 6, and I freaking adore this one. You just use the zip caster the whole time, flying around like a goddamn ninja. The 7th level only has Small Fry, so obviously this one is doable, but the 8th is not. Titled What Caused the Big Bang, you're supposed to snipe the boxes and you aren't given a sub at all. As for the 9th level, The String's the Thing, we're only given curling bombs. That's not ideal in the slightest since we need to hit these precise switch spots. The first wall is no problem since the blast radius reaches, but the second wall is a dead end. I tried standing on the edge and holding off the bomb so it barely moves forward, but even when it's kissing the wall, the blast didn't reach the last switch, deeming the level undoable. And for the 10th level, Deadly Dance Hall Jump Jump, you just jump without any equipment, so 8 successful levels is pretty solid so far. Let's see how Site 2 fares for us. Let me just say, things got hella spicy in Site 2. Our first level was fairly basic. The second one was a bit tougher. I decided to go with Small Fry over Splat Bombs simply because he could lock on to the sponges, which are a huge gimmick in Absorbency and You. But it was quite slow going because you couldn't skip any enemies as they would shrink the sponges immediately. This third level, Soak It To Me, was pretty simple and just required a lot of patience. And now is where shit gets wild. This is splitting crosshairs. You grind on rails and must hit every target target for the next rail to appear. This can be difficult at times with a normal weapon, but try it with only burst bombs. Thankfully, the one saving grace is that they have a somewhat big blast radius, so often you can blow up 2 targets at once or at least damage the ones surrounding it. I was able to get through everything up until the final checkpoint. Just look at what I have to do here. We start off with 4 targets at an incredibly awkward angle, then we've got 9 at the very end with the one in the middle being orange, which means it takes way more hits. So not only do I have to be extremely accurate with all my throws, but I have to do everything as fast as humanly possible. I tried this for a good 20 minutes, thinking that it wouldn't be doable. Trying to aim is absurdly hard when the grind rail is constantly changing elevation and direction, so I need to memorize exactly where to aim and at what times. Thank God that we can keep trying at this checkpoint, because without that I might have given up. But I kept going, and started to somehow figure out a strategy. By jumping in the air, I can slightly delay my speed, therefore giving me more time to hit the targets. The only issue was falling from a jump, and if you jump too much or too late, the targets would get ahead of you, ruining the optimization. So what I did was figure out exactly when the targets started to move, and luckily, I was able to hit them a little bit ahead of time. On a good run, I could get 3 burst bombs out before they started moving. I also needed to aim high in the air and try to destroy the top targets first, because the blue spinny heads get in the way when you're trying to hit the orange guy. After about 45 minutes, this happened. Oh my god, that was perfect until the end! The ending is by far the hardest part of the whole section. The angle you have to throw the burst bomb at is incredibly unintuitive, and I have no choice but to jump at least 2 times consecutively. This was my best attempt. It was possible! Oh my god! Oh my god! Certified gamer moment. After that colossal task, it was a relief that the rest of Site 2 was pretty easy. The 5th level was just using the crab tank the whole time. The 6th one, getting lost in 3 easy steps, wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. You're in this big maze, and you gotta hit a switch at the end to rotate it vertically and climb back up. The enemies weren't nearly as much of a hindrance as I expected, considering I could only use curling bombs. Thanks to their blast radius, I eventually climbed atop the maze and got through it without many issues. As for the 7th level, the ink conservation project, you're not supposed to shoot any ink, which means no sub-weapons. I figured I'd give it a try anyway, and a big wall was blocking my path, but I had an idea. An incredibly stupid idea. It was time to go back to swimming in the ink without popping up, and it was a lot scarier this time because if I did pop up at any moment, they would hit me. But very carefully, I made it to the other side. When I got there, I made the path even longer and then tried squid rolling. Unfortunately, that didn't really pan out and I couldn't get any ink on the wall, so that was kinda it for that level. After that was another interesting one, switching things up. I only had access to splat bombs, and shockingly enough, the lip of this block would catch the bomb, giving them a chance to explode. But no matter how many times I did this, the switch did not get 1 drop of ink on it. Even letting the bomb fall from the top, it still made no difference. It's like the game purposefully doesn't allow you to use splat bomb ink. But now, it was time for the next boss. After DJ Octavio, I was a little concerned to say the least, but thankfully I have my entire arsenal of sub-weapons this time. All I need to do is hit the eels back into fry, then hit her with some bombs. This wasn't too difficult for the first and second phase, because I didn't understand exactly how the boss works. You see these square targets on the eels? Yeah, the yellow ones are decoys while the red ones are real. I can be slow sometimes, I'm not afraid to admit that. But in the final phase, you must hit all the real eels before the next attack pattern begins. Since burst bombs are weak, this was ridiculously hard to do. The only phase where I even stood a chance of pulling this off was with 100 Eel Vision and Great Moray Transformation. That's because the eels were relatively close together, and I could pair a splashdown with fast time burst bombs. Fry, of course, takes more hits in this phase too, so a couple times I got up to her and fell off because I took too long. So I was forced to pre-coat the sides of Octostomp before having another go. It took over 20 minutes, but I did eventually beat this boss with only splashdowns and burst bombs, which means it's time to move on to Site 3. With Site 3, there's only 7 stages, and all the possible ones were pretty easy. Level 1 was just killing more enemies, same with Level 2 but with more flying around. Level 3 had a couple tricky splat bombs to nail, but otherwise it was painless. You're supposed to only use curling bombs in Level 4, and Level 5 doesn't allow sub-weapons of any kind. Level 6, Time Trial and Errors, is another breaking of the targets, and all we can use are burst bombs. I tried this for about 5 minutes before realizing I was getting like 30 of the 60 targets in the time limit. Even if I optimized the level, there is no way I could take out 1 target per second. And finally, Level 7 was just riding around on ink rails. So now we can move on to Site 4, and this one has another boss battle. Oh boy. Site 4 was a lot tougher than Site 3 for a multitude of reasons. The first level starts off pretty easy though, and same with the second level as well as the third. The fourth one, Splash the Block Party, is another slow-going but doable stage, and then we move to Amusing a Bemused Muse. Now, let me tell you, I am not amused that I have to complete this level with a frickin' ninja. It comes with splash damage, which is the most terrifying thing in all of Splatoon. I spent a good 15 minutes trying to carefully navigate my way through and pick the right boxes to break, only for too many to get inked on and the wrong one was destroyed. The splash damage on this sub is so insanely unfair, even more so than Matchmaker Station, and that level's miserable too. So is it possible? I'd say it's highly unlikely. I can't imagine anyone would even bother to try, but now someone's gonna try because I've challenged it, so have fun to whoever wants to prove me wrong. The sixth level, Those Aren't Birds, starts off with more targets, but this time they're hurled at you from the sky. It took me a few tries, but I eventually got the timing down perfectly. That was until the dreaded orange target showed up, and now I've lost all hope. I managed to hit it 3 times, and I could probably get 4, but it would take at least 5 to 6 to break, which isn't going to be possible. As for level 7, there's no subs to pick from, so we'll skip it. And level 8 is more rail grinding. Things are about to get real again. The targets themselves were a little bit easier than the previous grinding stage, but at the same time, the checkpoints are much more spread out. So either way, this was an endurance that I had to grind to get through. Thankfully, a large majority of the targets would group up together, allowing me to hit multiple at once. There was one set of 3 that were really spread out, and it took quite a few tries as I had to jump at just the right times to hit them all without falling off. But I think you know what happens next. Come on. Come on. Yes! Yes! Holy shit! Oh my god! And now we're getting to the final checkpoint. Thankfully, most of these targets were really easy to hit. It looks difficult, but the blast radius is so generous that the splash damage made things pretty easy. Until the very end, of course. There were these 4 targets on the far left and far right sides that I could not hit for the life of me. I mean, seriously, even if I aimed perfectly, my shot always missed until the path straightened out. But then the issue was a lack of time. There's a bunch of targets at the end and you need to hit them all to open the door. I figured out that with the splash damage, I could definitely make it work, but I could not find the right spot. This side. What? Yes! Yes! Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! Yeah! Woo! And honestly, things didn't get much easier after this. Level 9 was fine though, but that was my only breather. Next was level 10, Ink Fast Hotshot. Here we have even more targets. I'm really getting tired of them. This time, we have to hit them while also avoiding fail balloons. So now, I don't want a lot of splash damage, but the burst bombs just burst with excitement every time they pop. I can't control that. I ended up getting pretty far up until this part where the balloons rotate. Since the balloons are so close together, there was nothing I could do to avoid the fail balloons. I did come up with a pretty smart route. I'd hit these 3 at the bottom, these 2 in the middle, fill my ink, and hit the one on the bottom. But unfortunately, it's impossible to pop the last one without also hitting other fail balloons. No matter how many times I nailed the movement, they always popped at the end. And I think what's happening is the fail balloons are getting weakened like the normal ones do, but you just can't see it visually. So I had to give up right at the end, which sucks. And to wrap up Site 4, level 11 was simple, and level 12 is another one without any sub-weapons. But hey, at least we've got the Shiver Shark boss fight, and I'm not even joking when I say this, but it's way more fun only using subs. I don't know why either. Maybe because it's too easy with the hero shot, but with only burst bombs, you have to plan out your shots in advance while also avoiding the attack attacks and having enough of your ink on the ground. This combination of events makes Shiver Shark really fun to play, and I also discovered that you can throw a splat bomb in the shark's mouth to do tons of damage. I never even realized that till now. Moving on to Site 5, most of the levels were pretty easy. These include Level 1, trouble round every corner, Level 2, the upside to enemy backsides, Level 3, uh-oh, too many snipers, Level 4, barriers, they've got you covered, and next is Level 5. I consider this one the Pac-Man stage, and instead of using a burst bomb like I normally would when the situation allows it, I actually went with curling bombs this time. That's because curling bombs can collect power eggs, so I used their distance to my advantage and was able to get eggs really quickly this way. After a few tries and finding a good route, I managed to get them all. This is another challenge where I'd recommend you try it out at home because it was really fun. Level 6, zipping over the neighborhood, was a breeze, and next is Level 7, another grinding rail stage. Unfortunately, there's no crazy ass movement this time because we only have access to splat bombs. Why would they randomly change it? And these things don't blow up right away and are extremely finicky, so there's no way I can complete this one. Level 8's making waves with splashdowns was a piece of cake, and so was Level 9's low vis high risk, and even Level 10's shooter on rails. I have access to the burst bombs again, so you'd think this would be another challenging one, but it really wasn't. When I got to the final checkpoint, it took me like 3 minutes to figure out what to do. The burst bombs weren't quite reaching the switches I needed to hit, so all I had to do was jump and slightly flick the stick forward. You can't really lose anyway, since the rail just loops over and over. This would have been an entirely different story if I was forced to complete this in one go. The final levels include 11 Simply Ziptastic, 13's Learn to Reflect, and this one is in the bank, and 12's You'll Go Far If You Shoot Far couldn't be done, but I did do something kind of interesting. If you very precisely aim this splat bomb, you can actually hit the switch and move forward, but unfortunately there's 3 enemies up ahead on the ceiling. I tried to jam a bomb up between the middle one, but it didn't really work. And now we're on to the last site, Site 6. After playing through this one, there really wasn't much to write home about. A lot of the stages just forced me to play slowly, but it wasn't really hard. Like with Level 1, I just needed to be really stealthy against the Octarians and I was fine. And the same goes for Level 2 as well as Level 3. All I can say about Level 4 Conserve Ink Splat Sustainability was that it was hilarious. You're supposed to use very little ink, so I figured I'd just go as far as I could. And by some miracle, I made it to the very top. And I had no way of hitting the ink balloon, meaning I couldn't complete the stage despite completing it. Level 5 and Level 6 were easy enough, but Level 7 was a little scary. The name is Keep It Rolling, and we aren't allowed to roll with anything but burst bombs. While you can complete this one, you have to plan out jumps very accordingly, or you'll end up falling to your demise. Level 8, Level 9, Level 10, Level 11, and Level 12 were a cakewalk, which just leaves us with the big man boss. This is probably my favorite Splatoon boss ever. The Mario Sunshine reference is so cool because it works perfectly for Big Man, but also because Splatoon was originally going to be a Mario spin-off. So in a weird way, the worlds have collided together after all this time. Fighting Big Man with only subs was a bit tricky, especially in the final phase. I was using a combination of burst and splat bombs. Splat bombs obviously do more damage, while burst bombs made it much easier to escape tight spaces. When all the clones are coming after you, it was a pain in the butt to stay alive as they would constantly spam attacks. But eventually, I got a groove down and took out the Big Man, which now leads us to what I imagine you've all been waiting for, the very end of the game. There's 4 sections before fighting the big old teddy bear. The first one, you already don't have your hero weapons, so that one was easy, and frankly, the rest of it was too. I was expecting to struggle a lot more, but I've gotten so used to using burst bombs that it's not that challenging anymore. And at the same time, we're given so many specials, so I kind of forgot the hero weapons even existed. But what about Mr. Grizz? Is he any harder? Well, I'd say yes and no. The first phase really had me confused because I kept hitting a spot, thinking I was doing something wrong. I mean, nothing was happening, despite hitting him what felt like a billion times. And let's keep in mind, I can only use small fry and burst bombs as an attack. So after almost 10 minutes, the first fuzzball showed up and I could move on. The second part was a lot tougher because there were so many things I had to worry about. All the enemies shooting ink, the entire ship rotating, and Grizz is throwing ink around at any point in time. After another 10 or so minutes, I moved on to the final part, and there were way too many times that I almost splatted to my death. It was almost impossible to get the shields off the enemies because I had no way of sneaking around them, and Grizz started using this massive ink wave thing that's super deadly, and my burst bombs still suck, so I'm honestly shocked I got through this at all. Once I killed all the enemies, it wasn't that bad. It was just a waiting game. After blowing up his fuzzballs, the ship explodes, and it's time for us to do some vacuuming with the DJ himself. However, there's enemies that are going to pop up and waste my time, because for the first time in this campaign where it matters, I'm actually on a time limit. This was surprisingly not as bad as I expected. The only enemies that really sucked were the octo stamps because you can only hit them when they're laying down, so it took some practice, but I eventually got really good at hitting them precisely and quickly, and for the last set of enemies, I used a splashdown to save a ton of time. On just my third attempt, I got to the big laser part and finished off Mr. Grizz. I don't know if the laser counts as a hero weapon, because if it does, then I guess you can't beat the final boss, but I wouldn't count it personally, so that leaves us with one more thing to do. After Alterna, the Champion's Road of Splatoon. Lord have mercy on my soul, this is gonna be so, fun and exciting, yeah! And I'm not even thinking about the first section. I was able to get through it on my first try, actually. I had to spend forever painting all these bricks, but otherwise we moved on to the part I was very concerned about. And I think you can guess what it is, another grind rail section. There is not one easy moment in this entire section, and that's with normal weapons. Doing this with only burst bombs wasn't enough. In fact, I started to use small fry as well. This is gonna sound insane, but he was actually making a slight difference. On each rail, I have to hit 3 targets, and the angles the balloons are laid out makes it almost impossible to chain hit the targets, meaning I have to hit them one at a time. I learned that I can get about 6 balloons destroyed before I'm totally out of ink, and there's 12 that I have to get through. And let's keep in mind, this is the very beginning. I haven't even gotten to the meat of the level yet. But anyway, I brought up Small Fry earlier because he can destroy targets. So what I did was have him destroy the very first 2 targets before even getting on the rail. You might think that's just a little overkill and absurd, but I actually have to do this to save as much ink as humanly possible, so it is completely necessary. After doing that, I'll hit the 3rd balloon with Small Fry and do 2 jumps. At this point, I have full ink with the strategy, so I can hit the next 6 balloons no problem. All these jumps have to be manual and high in the air, by the way, again to conserve ink, which is different from a normal jump, which kind of just clings you to the next rail. And after that, the ending is where things get insanely hard. I have to throw Small Fry at the first balloon, then by some miracle pop the last 2. And at this point, I have almost no ink, so I have no idea how to consistently get through this. After sitting on this level for a couple days, I went back and realized I actually could hit multiple balloons at once. This was extremely hard, but if you timed it just right, you're able to conserve a lot more ink and move forward. The section after that wasn't very difficult, it mostly just came down to saving as much ink as possible. But then came the first big swirl, as I call it. This swirl has 9 balloons in a row, and you might be wondering if it's possible to chain enough balloons together to get through this. How many more balls? Oh my god! What the hell? There's more after that? There's more after that. Again, this whole section has to be done with no checkpoints. I went back and watched the entire level over and completely forgot this painful reality. And that's not even the hard part. I mean, just look at what's going on the screen. The balloons keep coming. And then there's this ending with like 12 and I can't refill ink since I'm falling from the sky. There is just no way I can get through after Alternal. So out of 73 levels, only 56 were possible. That's about 76%. Which is way lower than I was expecting. I really thought I was going to get through the entire game, but until further exploits are discovered, since this is still a new game, that is the current count. Warning: the following video is over-exaggerated. Most opinions shared aren't accurate to my thoughts and feelings. So be a squid, be a kid, and stay fresh, okay? I can't skip Callie and Marie's intro. Please, can't the game just tell me what the stages are in a notification and leave it at that? The amiibo is basically locked content. Good job, Nintendo. You're forced to play the same 4 maps for 4 hours. Why can't I play all the game modes at the same time? Sure, private battles exist, but it should be a thing for regular online matches too. Instead of split-screen multiplayer, one person uses the TV and the other uses the gamepad. Wow. We can't even vote on what maps to play. You can't select a random map either. Why is this so limited? I want to play as an Octoling without having to hack. There's no way to swap your weapons or clothing until you leave your lobby, unless you're playing like Squid or Private Battles, but why can't you just do that with every mode? The single player campaign is way too short. There's only 8 colors of ink. Why couldn't we get black or red or white? You can't play offline matches with computer players, so if your internet is RIP, that's too bad. Playing against a good sniper on Murray Towers. Need I say more? I'm not a kid or a squid, alright? I'm a 23-year-old grown man. I got facial hair, I got bills to pay, a place to keep clean, more bills to pay, and taxes! Nope! 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 No! No! When players disconnect, they aren't replaced with computer players, and losing just one teammate basically means you'll lose. I swear, it's impossible to get an S rank. This game needs to be anti-aliased. The ink looks kinda rough. The carbon roller. No, wait, the gold dynamo roller. No, wait, you know, all rollers just piss me off. Look, even this one has temper in the name. Ugh. A washing machine is a weapon? That's actually genius, I won't lie. The skill balancing is non-existent in matchmaking. Sometimes you'll play people that are way too easy, and sometimes you'll just get destroyed. The freaking spawn camping is a pain to deal with. That moment when you get squid flopped. So if you disconnect in the middle of a ranked battle, you lose points. Why? There's no voice chat for a game that really needs it. I have to use Skype or Discord to communicate. So those gamepad minigames, they were fun for like 5 minutes. What are the Inklings even saying? Speak English! When you're about to splat someone and they throw on the bubbler at the last second. Falling into the water kills you. When someone says that the motion controls are really bad. The fact that I used to be one of those people. When your team is too focused on getting kills during turf war, where kills don't really matter. Splatoon started with 5 stages. Are you kidding me? You can play turf war with friends, but you can't control if you're on a team with them or not. It takes like 3 years sometimes for a match to start. You can't highlight weapons or clothes you really like. It makes the inventory look messy. And you can't change your hairstyle or pants. Give 'em heck? I get Nintendo wanted that E rating, but that's some awkward dialogue. I can't kill those annoying ink muncher guys. Some of the stage elements like the sponges or ink rails were never used in the multiplayer maps. When somebody spawns a kraken before they're about to die. The Splatfests are all over and I miss them. Warning! The following video is over-exaggerated. Most opinions shared aren't accurate to my thoughts and feelings. So don't worry if you're Team Pearl or Team Marina. It's just whatever, okay? Splatoon 2? More like Splatoon 1.5. Does anyone even like Pearl? Like, honestly, Marina for the win. There's still only the girl or boy option, but there's 9 billion genders. Like, come on, Nintendo. Hey, look, an emo hairstyle. I'm yet again forced to play the tutorial. So Splatoon 2 kind of has voice chat, but you have to use their phone app, and you can't lock your screen or leave the app while using it. Back to Discord. Yes! They changed the jump button to B when it used to be X in the first game. This is why customizable controls should be a thing. I gotta relearn this now. If your internet sucks, you can't play most of this game. You gotta love how the single player campaign works exactly the same as Splatoon 1's with no real improvements whatsoever. One of the new enemies freaking pukes out these pink sponge things. Ugh, it's disgusting. The puns are out of control. Please make it stop. Aw, I can't shoot Marie. What a party pooper. When you get spammed with curl bombs and you're trapped in a corner. Hey look, it's Sonic Heroes. I'm not a fan of the boxes that take 10 million hits to destroy. It just slows down the game. So the amiibo will save your loadout and give you some exclusive outfits, and that's it. What's even the point? I like this Octo Samurai dude, but why is he on a unicycle? Like, what kind of idiot would fight someone on a one-wheeled bike? Instead of bringing back the Flood, we get the Inkjet instead. Like, come on, what a missed opportunity. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to let people draw again. So the Splat Dualies allow you to do this roll attack, which is cool, but it's the same button as jump. They really couldn't have mapped the roll to another button. Also, the boss fights are only 3 hits again, outside the final boss. New Super Mario Bros, what have you done to this industry? If you lose all 3 lives, the game doesn't tell you game over. No, it says freaking RIP. Yeah, you're flat out dead. Rest in goddamn peace. You're not coming back. You're as good as done. Say goodbye. Level 19, man. It's such an obnoxious level. Floaty fun, more like floaty fun. When you lose a match, it looks like the Inkling is trying to take a poop. What the heck? Oh great, a discount Guitar Hero. That series died years ago. Let it go, game industry. Why is Salmon Run only free to play sometimes? That's so sad. This game mode is genuinely the most fun I've had in a long time, and it really sucks we can't play it whenever we want. You still can't pick your maps in multiplayer matches. There's still no random map option either. Good job, Nintendo, for including 4 game modes at launch, but they're all the same ones and you still can't play them all at any time. They cycle every 2 hours. You've got to be kidding me. Why can't the glitter from the single player be in the other game modes too? That moment when you're given the worst weapon in Salmon Run. You can't swap out weapons in between matches. It's cool that all the specials are new, but I miss the Kraken and Ink Strike. Splat in peace, my good old pals. Where is the local split-screen multiplayer? And why can't I just play ranked modes with friends online? Like, that's so ridiculous. Like, geez, come on, Nintendo. Why do you always botch your online? When you win a match, why is there paint in the Inkling's teeth? Ugh. 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 This game does so much right, but it also does so much wrong at the same time. If Splatoon 2 wasn't so freaking addicting, I would be even more triggered than I already am. Hey look, Splatoon 2 is here. Here's a game that's well worthy of selling Nintendo Switch consoles. While it doesn't change much from the original game, there's certainly a lot in here that's mind-blowing. In 3, 2, 1. It feels good to be back in the Splatoon world. I really like these new hairstyles. There's really no reason to complain about the lack of good voice chat in Splatoon 2 because Discord exists. You now switch between maps and game modes every 2 hours instead of 4. And you aren't sent back to the Squid Sisters every time the maps cycle. While the campaign doesn't change much compared to the first game, the stages themselves have much more variety this time around. I can't get enough of these puns. Keep them coming, guys. I'm not sure why squid rings exist, but now I'm just happy and hungry. I love how the ink now has tiny fragments of glitter inside of it. Something about that is really cool. The new curling bombs and auto bombs are a fun new addition. The campaign's hub worlds are much more interactive this time around. It really doesn't get better than riding on ink rails and shooting. It's nice to see some new ink colors. The 8 from the first game got a little old after a while. I'm fighting an oven. Tell me again why this isn't going to be Game of the Year. The rollers can now throw ink directly in front of them. This change makes this set of weapons much more adaptable. Did you notice that? Why is there so much charm in this game? We can swap out weapons during the campaign. Ah yeah. It's pretty great to see the Miiverse messages returning. The multiplayer options are limited in some ways, but there's always private battles where you can customize everything to your liking. Have I mentioned how fun riding on ink rails is yet? Just when you thought Splatoon 2 had repeated bosses, Octostomp returns but has new forms that actually utilize the Splat dualies perfectly. The new umbrella weapon is hilarious, useful, and fun all at the same time. What a fresh idea. I love the overdramatic intro when the bosses phase into place now. It's pretty great. The music is really just superior. Almost all the beats are incredibly catchy. Welcome to Badass the Level. You can use the Rainmaker for the final boss? Hell yeah, man! If you don't want to hear Sheldon talk about weapons for 10 years, you can scrub through dialogue now. Salmon Run is a hit. It's so easy to get addicted to this game mode. The controls feel incredibly spot on. Heck, maybe even a bit better than the first game. It's pretty cool to see maps like Moray Towers and Port Mackerel not only return, but get improved upon dramatically. I never thought I'd be excited to play Port Mackerel, but here we are now. Okay, so the Inkjet is basically the flood pack from Mario Sunshine. That's what I'm talking about. The Ink Armor is a much better and more fair version of the Bubbler from the first game. It's nice to see some of the new specials are more or less improvements over what's come before. With an amiibo, you can now save your loadout so you don't have to constantly scramble with what you like for each different game mode. If you want to level up faster or get more points, you can use a ticket with Krusty Sean and easily do so. Some people have been complaining about the lack of being able to see the map at any time, but you can. You push a button and it pops up right away, and that's pretty awesome. And I think that's kind of faster and better than looking down at another screen to check the map. The drop roller power-up allows you to move right after using a super jump, so getting killed from doing this won't always happen now. Most of the maps are much better balanced in general. With ability chunks, you can apply specific abilities to clothing. No more random nonsense. Well, okay, I mean that still exists, but you know what I'm saying. Per usual, this game runs at a smooth 60 frames per second. There's no frame drops to be found anywhere. And did I mention that free DLC is also on the way? Hey look, it's Splatoon 2.5. Why can't I pick any eye color I want with the color picker? Even Splatoon has a better transportation system than America. That's f***ed up. What is it with everyone clowning on Fry's forehead? Guess what, guys? A third of you are going to be more bald than her one day. Why aren't the new amiibo coming out when the game launches? Hey guys, this will be the Eiffel Tower after World War III. The pay is 0. Bruh. You're having eggs with soup? The hell kind of meal is that? Why is my Octolink so pissed about beating the level? Ah, damn it, I just won! Ugh, I hate when that happens! Ugh! 3 games in, and the campaign has still not been well fleshed out. The levels are once again floating platforms. The DJ Octavio fight is stupid easy compared to how he was in the first game. What the real Agent 3? Why isn't she helping me out? A skill tree? Did Ubisoft develop this game? Oh fun, Anxiety the Level. Anxiety the Level 2, Electric Woomy Glue. I like this idea of using the eggs to get rid of the fuzz, but I didn't have enough eggs to clear all of it on the site, meaning I needed to grind for more of them. I really hope this doesn't happen later in the game. This level sucks a fat one. Good luck hitting the orange box that deflects almost all your ink. Seriously? We're fighting Octostop again? I realize it doesn't operate the same as the previous games, but all it really adds are these eel thingies. And that's about it. Wait, am I safe or am I gonna pass that? No! I don't want to climb up again. What do I get for making the world's scariest jumps? Wow, that was worth it. Oh, come on! Don't give me ice physics! Why do I have to hold ZL to get into a stage for so long? Just let me in immediately! I know you already talked about this, but seriously, why bring back the awful box puzzle levels? Do you want me to live in pain? Bruh, why are you sticking your tongue out like that? Don't even— what are you doing? I'm like 80% through the single player, and it's barely gotten harder. This is literally just a Xenoblade gun. Oh, so now Agent 3 is gonna help me. Okay, cool. She throws the freaking gun in the air, shoots the thing, 5 seconds later, she sprains her tentacle. Look, why don't you just admit that you're quiet quitting? That's what you're doing. Where the heck are the Shiver Fry and Big Man Amiibo? 3 games in, and we still cannot choose a random stage or even vote. The 2-hour time slots remain intact. And we still aren't able to pick any game mode at any time. That's honestly so ridiculous. Oh great, you can dab. What's next, the Fortnite dance? 12 stages to start isn't too bad, but it's still a bit annoying that the game feels a need to give us small updates for a couple years. The Salmon Run background and theme is exactly the same as Splatoon 2's. That's so lame. And the hub world runs at 30 FPS. Ew. Matches can still take forever to start. So there's a secret level, but no secret final boss? You can't play table turf online with people. This Way and Booyah are great, but we're really not gonna get more messages than that after 3 games? Adding checkpoints to Rainmaker did not fix the fun problem. It's still not fun. Clan Blitz still sucks too. Why can't I switch my gear in between matches during Anarchy, but I can in Turf Wars? Is there a reason Tricolor Turf Wars isn't also a normal mode? Splatnet 3. I can't wait to not use this. Oh, what? You thought Nathaniel was playing? I only play good games. Oh shit, Splatoon 3! I really love these new hairstyles. The curls are such a good look. And there's like 8,000 eye colors. My god. The graphics definitely look sharper than Splatoon 2. Maybe it's just better lighting or something. Little buddy, woo! Big man, it's my big man! Splatsville is huge. Seriously, it takes like 10 minutes to just explore all of it. Shiver do be kind of fine, I'm not gonna lie. Holy fuzzy. If you're wondering what Small Fry does, he basically serves as a living splat bomb. This guy is awesome. He can even consume massive amounts of fuzz by powering him up with fuzz balls. Whoa, hold up. Callie Marie are in the story mode again? Holy crap, DJ Octavio's back! His new ink vac attack is really neat, and thank God for our little buddy coming in clutch. The reason this boss fight was so easy is because he doesn't have Zapfish's power, further cementing that this new bad guy is more deadly than ever. What the fuck is happening? The build-up to the real meat and potatoes that is story mode was fantastic. It is go time. It's interesting how the single player takes parts of Splatoon's story and the Octo expansion's gameplay and kind of meshes them together. I like this new method of upgrading your weapons and even Small Fry. That's right, you can be a frickin' ninja in Splatoon 3. The way they're using Small Fry for puzzles is a ton of fun to figure out, and we're only just at the beginning. Ah yes, my favorite Splatoon character, Eastern Island Head.
Mission complete!
Shiver and Fry would be the ones to just be bandits on the side. See, Big Man gets it. Make money, get fish quick. That's all you need in life. This maze level was really creative. You start off by taking out all the enemies, then after hitting a switch, the entire thing turns vertically and you'll need to swim your way back up. This is such a Nintendo idea. I love it. So by inking the side of this block and hitting the switch for it to move, I managed to somehow climb up the cube while also not flying off of it. I was really hoping I'd skip like half the level, but sadly I just got sent back to the beginning. The curling bomb mission is really unique, as you have to stand in one spot while bouncing the bomb in very specific ways. Listen to this music. This comes straight out of the 80s and I'm all here for it. This Octobrush mission was a refreshing change of pace, and it turns out you were drawing a Small Fry all along. Boy, the things I'd give to use Splashdown infinitely. This Zipcaster mission where you fly up all these boosts might be the best level I've ever played in Splatoon. Oh my god, a Mario Sunshine reference! Oh my god, I freaking love Big Man. The goo is exactly like Mario Sunshine's and he splits into pieces? Oh, Nintendo, you sure know how to make me my pants. It's Big Man time! Oh, don't worry, we always make time for Big Man. I love how the final boss is just a big-ass teddy bear. You really couldn't ask for more. And my god, are you in for a treat if you like modern Kirby final boss vibes. Mr. Gribbs gets on a rocket ship, so Shiver, Fry, and Big Man team up and use their abilities to get to the ship. Agent 3 rides the freaking shark up a massive whirlpool of ink, only to land on the ship that's almost entirely covered in fuzz. When you hit the teddy bear a bunch, he gets really mad, his ship explodes, and when you're thinking that you're about to die in the darkness of space, oh god, DJ Octavio swoops in, your Small Fry turns into a huge fry, and a Dynamax begins while you ride atop a spaceship trying to vacuum up the blobs on Mr. Grizz. So yeah, just another Tuesday night for Splatoon fans. Finally, we can play Splatoon in first-person mode during the credits. The fact that you can import Splatoon 2 save data is huge for players who spent so long with it. The best update by far is that you don't have to watch the intro cutscene anymore. In fact, you'll just toggle into it or let it play as a text bubble while walking around. Lobbies are so much better. You can practice in the training ground or just flop around with your team while waiting. There's a new ghost system, which makes it a lot easier to join a specific person's match. Picking where to land in matches is so much more freeing than spawning in a tiny circle, and it helps fix spawn camping. Oh, tower control, I missed you so much. In battle, you can squid roll, making it easier to avoid enemy attacks. You've also got the Squid Surge, which lets you climb up walls faster. I'm a huge fan of the tickets that increase XP and coins for your whole team instead of just yourself. It's so cool that amiibo costumes from Splatoon 2 and even 1 can still be transferred over to Splatoon 3. The dabbing is so stupid. I love it. Even Salmon Run has its own training ground before matches. And better, you can swap out the weapons in the rotation to practice. And it's also open 24 hours now, thank God. Oh hell yes, we get off the battle helicopter before starting our job. The best improvement by far is that you can throw your eggs. This is going to be a massive help in intense battles, and it's not even broken since you sacrifice a chunk of ink to throw. When finishing a Salmon Run match, you level up your catalog, which means you can buy more stuff for your locker. If you want to see your previous 50 matches, you can do so now with battle replays. The Anarchy series is a nice toss-up since you have to win 3 of the 5 matches. I was skeptical about the Table Turf card game, but after just 10 minutes, I was hooked, and I'm really looking forward to collecting all the cards and raising my rank. After Alterna is absolutely brutal. It's basically the Champion's Road of Splatoon. You got 4 sections with almost no checkpoints, and every segment is terrifying. Whether that's hitting fast-moving targets or hanging off a piddle of ink, every jump requires immense precision, and it feels so good when you finally beat it. Well damn, merch had a glow up. Finally, we can use the specific gear we want with primary abilities. The Tricolor Turf Wars are a fun twist for the Splatfest. You can customize a locker with posters, stickers, loadouts, whatever you're feeling. Now, I personally like having the fish head just kind of sitting out, so when people open up my locker, they get jump scared. Well, we found Locker of the Year, guys. The new Stringer and Splatana weapons are pretty cool. I'm awful with both of them, but it's nice to see the variety continue. Finally, a special weapon where you can share a cold one with the boys. God damn, King Salmonid is thick. Mudmouths might just be my new favorite enemy. Just look at him, he's glorious. Man, I miss playing Splatoon. It's been a minute.